Does your soul light guide you away from the divisiveness around you? Join us for this conversation about Gene Key 7 and the astrological word pictures of the Sabian symbols. Welcome to the Free to Be Free portal. I'm Julia Ananda, your host, and here with astrologer and Gene Keys guide, Margaret Miller. Margaret, what a beautiful topic today.
Hi, Julia. Yes, I'm excited too. We're going to be looking at Gene Key 7, which moves from the shadow of division to the Siddhi of virtue, and it's the pathway of guidance. So, this is really another one of these gene keys that is so important in our world. Like everyone is affected by this gene key, and especially right now in the world, there is so much, division and divisiveness happening. And so I'm going to start there and probably move into the Sabian symbols as I'm talking about it. But I just want to talk about a little bit about what division, the shadow of division really is. And, it's something that we have been enculturated into through hierarchical structures, through dividing us into social groupings or economic groupings or racial groupings or, all different manner of divisions. And that happens sort of naturally because we are programmed, these are gene keys, so they are genetic programming inside of us. And so there is this tendency for us to either be a leader or a follower, and so at the shadow frequency, this division is really applied to us through different structures, through different authorities out there in the world to keep us in line or to keep us, under control, basically. And so when we think about division at the shadow frequency, it has a lot to do with leadership, right? And so someone who has the energy for leadership but is operating at a shadow frequency is going to use divisiveness or division as a tool to keep people in basically in a victim frequency, right? And so and you can tell that's happening because there'll always be an agenda that has to do with gaining individual power or wealth or stature, rather than caring about the people that they're leading and offering. Where at the guidance level, at the gift frequency, the leader would be leading and attracting followers through inspiration and helping them to move into that autonomy and helping them to shine that soul light from and come into their own inner authority. So something about this that as I was listening to Richard Rudd talk about this gene key, he really mentions the fact that this, how we deal with this, depends on the health of our boundaries, and so that these boundaries that we have to have are not walls. They're not divisive in that way. They're not walls. They're more like a permeable membrane that chooses what to let through and what to leave on the outside. And so it's, as we develop healthy boundaries in our personal lives, but just in how we relate to the world, we are able to move out of that divisiveness. We don't have to have an us or them mentality, we can instead just choose to invite in only the higher frequencies and be aware. I mean, because you can't, if in this, with this permeable membrane, or this, with a healthy boundary, you would still be aware of what's going on out there and be able to make the choice, right, of what resonates with you and what doesn't. And and if something really is off kilter out there, then you have the opportunity, instead of saying, oh, what I say is right and I'm better than them, or having that really divisive attitude about it, you can see that they're operating at a shadow frequency and send them love. Like, send them love, and and recognize that this is something that is sort of inherent in all of us. We all have that ability to be divisive, right? And we do, we do it in our family groupings. We do it, anytime we have any kind of hierarchical structure, we're going to have that potential for division, right? That's how it's done. That's what a hierarchy is, is dividing us into levels or layers, right? And so when we do start operating at the gift level, and we are seeing things more from love, and we're being mindful and in alignment with our own inner authority, with our own light, with our own truth, right? Then what happens is guidance, and it's our own individual inner guidance, or guidance from source, or however you want to say that, or your guides, and also the leaders that are attracted, the leaders that you will choose to follow, are ones who are guiding rather than trying to lead through force, because the dictators come from division, and the inspirational leaders come from love, come from truth, right? And they come from this place of guidance, where what they truly want is to point you in the direction of your own autonomy, of your own truth, and to be able to demonstrate how to follow that and how to live your life in that way. And so I guess I'm going to talk about virtue first, and then move into the Sabian symbols that go with this. So when we bring that guidance up to its highest level, right? When we are really following our truth and following our intuition and following, and we have, people around us who are leading or guiding, or, following their own truth as well, and we're in that frequency, then what starts to happen is our truth of our soul, like our soul's capacities, or our soul's gifts, which are our virtues, begin to come through. There are inner gifts, and our inspirations for kindness and love and compassion and empathy, right? These are the virtues, right? These are how those virtues begin to blossom. And there was another point as I was listening to Richard Rudd talk about the seventh gene key. He said, like, that the virtues are can be cultivated. They can accumulate, right? Every single act of virtue, every single act of kindness, every single act that is in service to the whole and to um, the raising of our collective position on this planet, is is that can be accumulated, and it is accumulated, and it will then be able to blossom as that Siddhi of virtue, where we're always operating from that place, and those people that then are not leading at all, and they're not even guiding at all. They're just emanating and holding that frequency for us to begin to resonate with, right? So, so this is, I love this idea and of guidance and leadership through acting as a guide. And it's really basically acting as a guide for yourself in your own life, guiding your own life through that idea, or through that ideal of virtue, and shining your inner light, right? That's virtue, that inner light shining out fully into the world. So the programming partner, and this is in Gene Key's term, would be the opposition. In astrology, it would be the opposition to that, is the 13th Gene Key, which is discord, discernment, and empathy. And so I like to play a little bit with the programming partner sometimes, because I think it shows how they work together. You can see how division leads to discord, and discord causes more division, and they just, that's that feedback loop that happens. But then when you get to guidance and discernment, the discernment part of it, this is where guidance is so exciting. Like a leader who is leading from this gift level has the discernment to know that that kind of leadership is more about becoming an incredible listener than it is about pointing things out. It's listening to the other, and holding a big enough space for that person or those people to find it for themselves, to find their own authority and find their own guidance for themselves. And it's a beautiful thing. And then when you get to the Siddhic level, it's not really a polar opposite, or it's not the same kind of feedback loop. It's just another face of love, right? Empathy is another face of love, and virtue is another face of love. So I wanted to bring that in also because, this time when when the sun is shining on the 7th Gene Key, we're also in the Lion's Gate portal. Yeah. And so that has to do with aligning with the spiritual sun, which is Sirius, and utilizing that energy to uplift and to connect with our origins, to connect with our cosmic origins, and to really begin to shine that inner light out into the world. So yeah, so now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols that are associated with the 7th Gene Key. And the Sabian symbols, again, are these incredible, beautiful word pictures, one for each degree of the zodiac. And so today we're talking about Leo 15. I believe it's Leo 15. Yes. A pageant is a pageant with spectacular floats is moving down an avenue crowded with cheering people. Okay. And so the idea of this is the dramatization of something, the dramatization of some human ideal or some cultural ideal, right? And so this can be used to uplift, right? To really uplift the spirits and to be in celebration, or it can be used to further an agenda, right? So it can be used in that way that divides us, or the way that brings us together and uplifts us, right? And you can see that used in many different ways. Anytime there's any kind of pageantry going on, there's usually an agenda with it, and it's up to us to discern what that agenda is, right? To be able to feel into it, and to know if that's something that we want to be the crowd cheering or not. Right? So I just thought that was an interesting um, alignment with this gene key. Then gene key, or I'm sorry, Sabian symbol Leo 16 is: the storm ended, all of nature rejoices in brilliant sunshine. And here we have another symbol that is really talking about the light coming after the dark night of the soul, in a way, right? It's the surge of life and love after a major crisis, and all of nature rejoices, when the sun comes back after a furious storm. And so this symbol really also, when we have gone through the storm, when we see what it is that we have needed to work through, or whatever it is, whatever that storm is in our life, we can anticipate the coming of the light. And the coming of the light is our own inner light being able to shine out in the world, right? And as well as the light of higher consciousness shining down on us, right? Or it's shining through us, right? And then we can be truly emanating those virtues in our life, right? And we always have to go through, the storm is going to come, the storms come, and we have to go through it. And then the light comes. Yeah. And then we can shine our lights out into the world. Okay. Then Leo 17 is a volunteer church choir singing religious hymns, or I've heard it. The volunteer church choir is rehearsing. Okay. And so this is talking about that, adding our voices to the highest ideals, right? Singing out the praises, and really harmonizing the higher frequencies together in a group. And it's so healing to do that. If you've ever been in a group where you're harmonizing together, singing together, or chanting together, or praying together, or whatever it is, the power in that. And it is a healing of division, because we become one voice, right? Even though we're singing different notes with different timbres, right? And different vocal qualities, where we together create this one beautiful noise. And so it really, and to me, that always feels like coming into alignment with who I am as an individual, when my voice melds with another voice. It's like, then I know that I'm in alignment when that happens, when the magic that happens when we bring our voices together. And Leo 18, a chemist conducts an experiment for his students. And this is about, there's several things that this is about. And the main energy of it has to do with transmutation and alchemy, right? And being able to, having the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to change our perception of our life circumstances, for instance, to something higher, to something better. How does it get better than this, right? And to be able to transmute whatever those energies are and make it, turn the lead into gold, right? In a way. And then because it's a chemist is, you know, teaching his students, showing them this experiment, showing this alchemical process, then he's showing them how to do that as well. That this is something that we can do for ourselves. So we can bring ourselves, and this, I want to bring in the boundary idea again, where we recognize where we have walls against other people or ideas or ideals or whatever it is, and where we have a healthier boundary that's a much more permeable membrane that lets good things in that we might not let in otherwise, because the wall is there saying, if you believe this, or if you think that, or if you do this, or you belong to this group, then I can't talk to you, right? That's a wall. But if we can then instead have that permeable membrane and listen with our spiritual ears, so to speak, we can hear what the other person is saying and receive whatever gifts might be there, because no matter what the division is, not everything they say we're going to disagree with. Not everything they believe we're going to disagree with. Some of their ideals and their belief system probably is very similar to ours, but we won't know that if there's a wall there. So that's the alchemy that we can do in our own lives, is be open to the gifts in whatever is there. Transmute the things that don't resonate, that are harmful, and not let them through the membrane as much as we can, and choose where to put our focus and our attention. So then the next one, Leo 19, is a houseboat party. And this is kind of like the Leo symbol not too long ago, of the lawn party with fancy lanterns, except for the houseboat party, it sort of puts a more youthful and carefree kind of frequency to the celebration, right? And so it's talking about giving ourselves permission to be wild, giving ourselves permission to maybe act out some of our emotions and our activities that might be shunned by the society, right? And to be able to look at ourselves realistically, that we have these urges. You don't necessarily have to act out all of the urges, but to know that we can express ourselves more freely if you're out on a lake or on a river in a houseboat, there's a lot more freedom of expression, right? And so through doing that, through that kind of activity of letting our hair down, or letting our wild side out, we then spark this incredible gift of creativity, right? And of a newness to ourselves, where we can see things from a lighter perspective, right? That's why we take vacations, and that's why we don't always succeed at that, but that's why those kinds of things are really important to us, right? To be able to run wild for a while and remember our true nature. So those symbols are so powerful to me. I love especially the chemist one, how it relates to the guidance and virtue. And I really feel like they add a layer of depth. I'm starting to really feel this as we go through the weeks of looking at these Sabian symbols, how they they can really add some depth to the conversation. So
Yeah. I
enjoying.
particularly love in these symbols how they're showing these wonderful examples of people coming together and really raising each other up, raising themselves up by joining the group and raising each other up. Um, I loved singing in choir growing up, and it really is an incredible experience to be in harmony with all these other people around us. And I got that same feeling from being in sacred ceremony in groups. It's that same delicious feeling of the power of the group.
Yeah.
And what I think is very poignant in all of these teachings for this time period is we're talking about the individual, our own autonomy, and then choosing how we are affecting others or interacting with others, participating in what's going on. And I think that's really powerful to look at both of those perspectives.
Yeah, I do too. And I always love when you bring up, participating in ceremony and because yes, that's, it's not just, singing in a choir, although that's fantastic, right? That anything that we do in that group setting that is for the purpose of the upliftment of our souls, is has that quality. And but it also on the other side of it has the potential, anytime we get into a group, it has the potential to turn into a hierarchy, which is it's just a human, it's we don't have the as a collective, we don't have the toolkit to do it differently. Like you always have a leader, and hopefully you have a leader who is operating at least the gift level, of guidance rather you know, than division. But the temptation when you have a leader then becomes, uh, the power corrupts, that
Yeah, right.
idea, right? And so I look at this a lot because I've been involved in a lot of different groups, and what I'm finding, especially with the Gene Keys teachings, the 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 level above hierarchy, and that's the wrong way to say that because it's not that at all, right? Is synarchy, where the people are, where the leaders are chosen organically for the qualities that they have to offer in that moment
In that
for
moment.
whatever that task is. and
Yeah.
and that this is it's a powerful ideal that we can, strive towards. And I think that more and more people are experimenting with that, and of finding, finding the difficulties because we're so conditioned to respond in sort of that hierarchical manner. But as we raise our frequencies, then we become more open to be able to allow and to say, yes, I will follow you on this part because I know that what you are demonstrating here is what I want to follow. And then when that piece is complete, then the next person steps up,
Right.
right? It's what a powerful thing. I hope to be involved in many groups that have that as their ideal.
Yeah. That also makes me think of something else that you were teaching in this, which is um, that we don't have to create a wall. So it's that more about interacting with other people. So we don't have to create a wall and say everything you're doing is horrible, or I can't learn from you, or you and I could never create something beautiful together because of this one thing or this one thing or this one thing. It's a really wonderful opening concept to say that I'm choosing to live in these virtues, or I'm choosing at this time to live in these virtues. Come with me. Or you are too. Let's do this together. And we don't have to match up on every single other thing. And if we don't match up on every single other thing, we don't have to create division.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can just enjoy where we do connect.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I think that's a really good that's a really good point. And it's really, it brings us out of the victim frequency when we choose that. When we choose that. We choose to have those kinds of healthy boundaries because we become responsible for our own thoughts and feelings. This is another thing that I wanted to thank you for sparking that, because that's another thing that I wanted to bring in, is that this idea that what we think about other people is either helping our virtue to flower or it's wilting those flowers. You know, if we're thinking negatively about somebody else, then we are harming ourselves, right? And that it's really important to understand that. We can't move out of the victim frequency if it's all about finger pointing and blame and shame and those kinds of things. We have to take responsibility for our own thoughts, and that's why I was saying before, sending those people that we really don't agree with, you know, sending them love, and helping them just through helping ourselves to raise our frequencies so that we can be of service.
Yes, yes. Instead of going into victim and blaming and conflict and divisiveness inside ourselves, if we're sitting there alone thinking of someone, we can say no and send love. And then that raises ourselves up. Yeah.
Yeah. And recognizing that we're all human
Yeah.
and that we all have shadows, and that, not everybody's going to agree with us, you
Yeah.
know?
And we're not perfect either.
Right. Right.
Although we may think so.
Right.
Margaret, this was fantastic. Beautiful information, incredible wisdom. Ah, thank you so much for bringing this forward for us.
You are so welcome, always. Yeah.
Yes, with such a pleasure. And to our audience, please subscribe, like the video if it helped you, and tell us in the comments how you received this information. Thank you.
Thank you.